It's the home of the crazed shooter who carried out the elementary school massacre, and it's also where he shot his first victim, his own grandmother. She is in stable condition today.
On May 24th, the year 2022, an 18-year-old that goes by the name of Salvador Ramos fatally shot 19 students, 2 teachers, and has reported 17 other wounded people. One of those being his grandmother, who is currently in ICU and is fighting for her life. This all took place at Robb Elementary School, located in Udalve, Texas. This is obviously a tragic incident, and for obvious reason has caught a lot of people by storm. It has caused a lot of people to have erupted in emotion, whether that be sad, mad, grief. And before we continue in this conversation, I would like to offer my condolences on behalf of the podcast to everybody in Udalve, Texas, or anybody that has been affected by this tragic incident. But with this conversation, more than that, I would like to try to provide with this conversation, and what I hope that it did is provide more than just condolences. I believe that there can and there is a conclusion that we can come to in order to prevent stuff like this. I'm not claiming to have any answers, but I think us as a society, you the listener, seeking deeper than just what is on the surface, I think we can all collectively work together and help prevent things like this, tragedies like this. So I hope that this conversation helps the listeners open their mind and dig deeper, seek deeper into the situation, and actually try to provide a solution, not just post on social media, not just cry about it, not just whine about it. Although this didn't happen in a lot of maybe the listeners' city, who's to say that your city's not next? And I think that we need to make the correct movements in order to help prevent things like this, so we are not next. Thank you all for tuning in. For the new listeners, y'all can find the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and anywhere else that you can find your podcast. If you would like to get in contact with the podcast, maybe pitch a topic, or maybe just engage, the best way to get in contact with us would be through Instagram using the handle The Real Common Podcast. I hope that y'all enjoy this topic and this conversation as much as we did recording it. Condolences to anybody that has been affected, and we just hope to promote free thinkers here on this podcast. Thank you all for tuning in, and I hope you all enjoy. Thank you.
On the track.
Welcome to another episode of the Common Podcast. Guys, today's episode is going to be a tough one. I know a lot have been asking for it. We're going to be talking about the Udalve Texas School Shooting that happened in Robb Elementary. This was a conversation I'm not going to lie, kind of trying to avoid, but there has been a lot of people asking me to have this conversation. And I'll explain why it was something that I kind of wanted to avoid, but it's a difficult conversation to have, and this is something that's very sensitive. So this is why I've kind of put it on the back burner, and I was contemplating whether I should speak on it or not, but it is a pretty serious issue. And some of y'all want to hear me talk about it. So I'm going to do my best, and that's what we're going to be doing today. Before I introduce today's guest, I am going to be showing a couple of clips, and I'm going to be reading a couple of reports that I think that are going to be very important before going into this conversation. I do want to say that, condolences go to all the families that were affected. Again, very sensitive conversation, very sensitive topic. there are children that lives have been taken way too early, and that will not, there's families that will not have their children coming home to them. I'm very grateful and happy that I'm able to come home to my family, and that's just not something that they're gonna have to do. So let's go ahead and jump into what I want to show you all is a video before hopping on with my guest here. So here we go.
It's the home of the crazed shooter who carried out the elementary school massacre. And it's also where he shot his first victim, his own grandmother. She is in stable condition today.
There's blood all over.
Oh my gosh, it's all the way up here.
The killer's grandfather showed reporter Allie Bradley the disturbing scene.
There was a pool of blood here.
Really?
We are now seeing the killer's last selfie and his chilling final message. I'ma go shoot up at elementary school right now. Salvador Ramos sent the warning to a 15-year-old German girl who goes by the screen name Cici. He met her just 2 weeks ago on a little-known social network app for teens based in France called Yubo. Referring to his grandmother, he wrote, I'ma do something to her right now. She's on the phone with AT&T about my phone. It's annoying. 6 minutes later, he messaged, I just shot my grandma in the head. The German girl is speaking out today, telling the New York Times, maybe I could have changed the outcome. I just could never guess that he'd actually do this. Ramos worked at the drive-thru window of this Wendy's and told coworkers he was saving to buy guns. He was rude, creepy, and scruffy, says a former coworker. He bought a top-of-the-line version of the AR-15 as seen in these YouTube videos. Ramos legally purchased it online. The receipt shows he paid $2,024.28. He also bought a handgun, ammo, and body armor. Former FBI mass shooting expert Catherine Schweitz says Ramos might have been stopped if warning signs had been reported.
One of the more telling things for me is that some of the people who are coming forward and saying, I saw this with him, I saw this change in his behavior, I saw him start to spend more time with guns. We can gather a lot of information about this young man now, but it would have been nice if we'd gathered it before he started shooting.
The whole nation is grappling with grief. CBS Morning's co-anchor Tony DeCopel struggled to keep his emotions in check.
Ambry was an honor roll student. It's just really hard here. And we're all going to pack up, and eventually we'll go home. But this community is going to be living with this forever.
Jimmy Kimmel fought back tears.
There have been 27 school shootings so far this year in this country, and it's May. How does this make sense?
There's the first video that I wanted to show you all. I think that's very important before I continue. There are a lot of contradictory in certain different websites. So I've surfed about 3 different websites. And just to give you all an instance, the whole Yubo website, some websites are saying that him and that German girl were talking through Facebook. This one says Yubo. There's just little minute controversy things that happens throughout these websites, which is something that we do have to pay attention to, because when we're looking at the mass media, we have to be careful what we're listening to. I always tell everybody that. But without further ado, I don't want to continue this conversation without introducing my guest. And so today with me, I got my good friend here, Saul Guido. What's going on, brother?
What's up? Hello, everyone.
So I know you couldn't hear the video, right? You couldn't hear it?
No.
Okay, so I'm going to try to briefly explain. The video just kind of gives a recap about how this guy saved up money to buy a bunch of guns and how he had been contacting this German girl through this app saying that he was going to kill somebody, and then, basically giving a whole recap with news reporters and stuff like that. So I'm also going to be speaking about, there was 19 students fatally shot. So 19 students died
and then 2 teachers also died. It says here that 17 other people were wounded, and his grandmother, who he shot in the head, did not pass away. She's in critical condition right now. So that was the first suspect. Now,
The first victim.
the first victim, yeah.
Yeah.
Suspect would not be correct. I have a timeline here that I think that's going to be also very important. And like I said in the beginning of this podcast, this is something that I really didn't want to touch on because I don't like touching on topics that I don't see a solution to. I have a hard time when people bring up problems without any solution. To me, it's somewhat of like a lazy approach. I don't know how you feel about that, but I know there's a lot of people upset right now, and obviously for obvious reasons, but I just think it's pointless to a certain extent if you don't see further than that and see, okay, to what conclusion can we come to? I don't know. That's just the way I see it.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way. I mean, there's no point in, I don't know, man. There's like really nothing you can do because, I mean, what can you do? Stricter gun laws? Like, that's not going to help anything. I haven't heard one person come up with one good possible solution. I just heard a lot of people just complaining and saying something needs to be done, but nothing is offered, you know?
Yeah, I see one solution. It's just, I think it's going to be very hard to attain. I think we should up the security guards. I think there should be more security guards. But the thing is that that's just not a desirable job. Like, not many people want to be at a low-paying security guard job at an elementary school or middle school or high school. You know what I mean? It just doesn't pay. It's not desirable. It doesn't pay much. It's not.
Yeah, especially knowing that you have that job now because of school shooters. So you're signing up to be the person that's going to stop this guy when there's obviously no way they're going to pay you enough money to do that, you know? You're probably going to be making minimum wage and have to offer your life, you know? Like, that's something that a lot of people aren't going to want to do.
For sure. I had a theory. My theory was, and I was speaking to some friends about it, was what if we hired a lot more cops and then we kind of cycled them in and out of the schools? So like, let's say we had 3 cops at every school, which obviously depending on the county, we would need to hire a lot more cops for this, right? And I don't know if it's attainable, but this is my theory. What if we hire more cops and then we have at least 3 cops to every school plus security guards going through, okay, so like you're going to be at this high school, you're going to be at this high school, you're going to be at this middle school, boom, boom, boom. And then every month they kind of like cycle out, like, okay, then you're going to be on regular duty. And then another 3 cops will kind of take your position because they'll still be getting paid as cops, but they will be, you know, kind of like security guards. Do you think that's far-fetched? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if that's gonna. I mean, I feel like a cop would be the best option rather than security. Like a official police officer would be the best case scenario. If a shooter knows that there's at least one cop on duty, it's probably gonna, you know, give them a second doubt in their mind, as opposed to knowing that there's no one watching over the school. They could just walk in with whatever the fuck they want, you know.
100%.
I think that's a good solution, is a cop, at least one, you know, at every school, ready to mow a motherfucker down.
Yeah, I just think that the logistics, obviously I don't have them all. Like, I don't have the logistics ironed out and laid out. But in my head, that kind of is what makes sense. And I just kind of want to lay that out there before we continue on, because I do have a timeline here of where everything happened, which is going to eventually get into like the meat and potatoes of what I want to talk about in this conversation with you. Because I think personally that this whole school shooting is a lot more than what it displays in the surface. just by little clues that I see in this case that just they speak out to me, and we'll get into that before I get after the cover this timeline. So I'm gonna show this on screen for the people that are on YouTube. Okay, so September 2021, shooter asks for help from his sister to buy a gun. She denies. March 1st, 2022, gunman sends a message on Instagram about guns. Shooter discusses wants to purchase a gun in a group chat on Instagram. Another Instagram chat March 3rd. Someone tells shooter, word on the street is you're buying a gun. March 14th, gunman makes Instagram posts. 10 more days is what he says. And then a user comments, are you going to shoot up a school or something? The shooter replies, no, stop asking dumb questions. You'll see. March 16th, 2022, shooter purchases guns and ammunition. The shooter turns 18, the legal age for purchasing a rifle in Texas, on May 16th. The shooter then legally purchases two, this is going to be key, guys, so listen to this, 2 AR platform rifles from a local federal firearm license on 2 days, March 17th May 17th and May 20th. He also buys 375 5.56 caliber ammunition. Okay, we got to make sure that we are taking all this into consideration. Okay, May 24th, 2022, shooter sends Facebook messages. The shooter sends private messages to a girl in Germany. This is also what I was talking about, guys, that's a controversy to the video. He met online, tells her about his plan to shoot his grandmother. The gunman shoots his grandmother in the face, who then calls the police. The shooter steals his grandmother's vehicle, drives from his home to Robb Elementary School, which is 2 miles away. Shooter arrives at the school. The shooter crashes the vehicle in a ditch near the school. He fires a gun at 2 male witnesses who began approaching the crash from a nearby funeral home. Witnesses flee and call 911. Teachers call 911. Okay. Shooter walks to the school parking lot. Shooter reaches last row of the vehicles. Okay, that's pretty basic information. Shooter enters the school through the back door. He shoots at least 100 rounds into classroom. 100 rounds, damn. 111 and 112, which are connected. Authorities originally said teacher left the door propped open, but later said teacher closed the door, and the automatic lock failed. Let's kind of skim through this.
Wait, so he didn't have body armor on?
Yes, so he bought body armor.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear you say that in the list.
Oh, that came out in the video. Okay, so let me kind of recap that in the video. So in the video, guys, if y'all heard, he buys 2 ARs, right? One of them, which in the video they list as it was a over $2,000 weapon. In this report that we just saw right here, let me see here.
Someone did the math, and it ended up being like $8,000 or something like that worth of equipment and bullets and all that shit.
And that's what I want to get to, dude, because that's so important. It's so interesting on how we get all this stuff.
Some of you guys are probably like, what does that matter? You know, why does the money matter? And it's because this guy, and not just him, but his whole family is poor. Like, they're less fortunate people. They've been since this kid grew up. That's why he has issues. You know, he's been bullied for it. So he's not a man for money. So this is where it becomes interesting.
Exactly. So here, guys, shooter then purchases 2 AR platforms from a local federal arm license in 2 days. He also buys 375 rounds. Guys, for those of you that do not know, bullets, ammunition are very expensive, extremely expensive. They're not cheap, especially now, since a lot of them are, it's a lot harder to get ammunition nowadays. Like, they sell out very quick, right? And so, inflation, prices go up. But he buys two of these ARs. One of them was recorded to be over $2,000. So he buys two of them. We can assume that's $4,000. He buys body armor. He buys 376 rounds of ammunition. Guys, this stuff is not cheap. Now, it has been said, just like Saul said, that this guy is obviously not a wealthy person. He's been bullied for being quote unquote poor. His family is also low class. He's not a wealthy man. In the video we saw, he worked for Wendy's. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, where does this guy get all this money? $8,000 is what somebody added it up to buy all this equipment. On top of that, this person is going on public saying these crazy things, talking about 10 more days of shooting, telling people in private messages that he wants to kill his grandmother and he's going to go shoot up people. I believe that the government does have access to a lot of the stuff that we think is private, and especially the things that we post on social media. So I think that it's very fishy, and I don't want to come off as unsympathetic to the people that lost their children, but I see a lot of things that jump at me and say I think this is a little bit deeper than what we're seeing on the surface.
Yeah, I agree, because that to me it just seemed like another crazy kid going off, right? But then I looked at it and I was like, man, this is a guy that had no money, right? Like, he was teased for wearing the same clothes, old clothes, hand-me-downs, whatever. So this guy didn't have money. So who gave him the money is the question. Where did he get the money, right? And so there's this whole theory, at least from what I've heard, that somebody obviously equipped him with that money, knowing that he was this guy on the brink of committing, horrible crimes. So someone basically, groomed him into becoming this, this hitman for them, for whatever cause or whatever purpose they wanted, So the question is who or why?
Yeah. And so, like, the very strong conspiracy theorists would say that it's the government, right? And so that's, if we look at it from a very, like, outlandish standpoint, it kind of really does make sense, because it's like, whenever, for the people that don't know what conspiracy, aren't in the conspiracy theory realm, there's these things called psyops, and psyops are basically instances or tragedies purposely done in order to push an agenda on a certain thing. So let me give you a perfect example. Right now we're having this whole Second Amendment thing where people are trying to, get rid of gun laws, which, by the way, Canada just did. In Canada, firearms, handguns are illegal now because of what's going on right now. So that kind of just adds a little bit more to what we're talking about here. So the theory is, in order to get rid of the Second Amendment, there is a psyop created. People are groomed and targeted to do these mass shootings and are given supplies or money to buy the supplies in order to do these mass shootings and make guns look bad. That is the theory. I'm not saying that I completely buy the theory, but there's a lot of things in here that do not make sense, and it really gets me thinking. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, for me, I look at who the target was and who the victims were, and they happen to be predominantly Hispanic, and also that was a low income neighborhood. So if you look at the targets, right, who was targeted? It was Hispanics that are low income. So who would, be interested in taking part of that community out? Could be a racist organization, or it could be, like you said, some political thing. Who knows?
100%.
It would make more sense for it to be political, though, right? To make guns look bad. But how ironic is that, right? To like, you want to get rid of guns, so you use them.
Yeah.
You're like, guns are bad. They kill people. Let's kill people to prove that they do that. Like, that's insane. If that's actually true.
Right. And then, but also on top of that, on your podcast, we also spoke about the New York shooting, right? Where the guy it was a hate crime. It was a white 18-year-old male who went to a predominantly black neighborhood and just started shooting a bunch of black people. And
That's 3 shootings now, because there was that one and then the California one with the guy shooting. I think it was Taiwanese people.
and the guy was
And now we have-
that one was old, right? He's like 65.
Yeah, he was an older white guy, I think. And now we have this guy, which is a 18-year-old boy. And the one in New York was also 18, right?
Also 18, yes sir.
Yeah, so I see when I look at that, it's like maybe they're trying to prove a point that this, because it's legal when you're 18, maybe they're trying to present the point that, look, these 18-year-olds get a hold of these guns and bad stuff happens. Maybe that's part of their agenda, is to show that it's obviously not a good thing to allow young people to have guns, or at all, anyone for anyone to have guns.
Yeah.
Could be political.
Yeah, dude. And here's another problem that I have with the whole situation, because I know I have some people that I'm friends with, and they, they're upset about the situation. I understand, but they're real quick to blame like the local officials. Like, I know a lot of people are trying to blame the cops there, and obviously I don't think that the cops did a great job, because I think that the guy was in there for like some reports say the guy was in there for 45 minutes. Some of them say he was in there for an hour and 15 minutes. But this is when I say that we need to act locally, bro. I think a lot of people, they don't even know who their local officials are. And maybe we're at that age where we really just don't care. Maybe later on in life, as we get older, we start to care more about politics and stuff like that. But again, this goes back to my first statement, is like I find it very frustrating when people want to cry on social media, but they're not doing anything for a solution, and they're not trying to really fix anything. I'm going to tell you exactly what I did when I first heard about the shooting. The first thing I did, and I'm not going to say which local official, because that the people hearing this podcast that know where I'm from will know exactly who it is. But I spoke to a local official, bro, and I reached out and I asked, what do you think about the situation, and how do you think we can help? How do you say it? Help, not stop this, but like, I'm forgetting the word.
Prevent?
Not prevent, like, I guess help prevent, right? Like,
Minimize the risks.
Yes, exactly. So like, what can we do to set like barriers, or what are some ideas to help this? Because again, in that moment when I started to hear all the news, I really felt stuck, and I really didn't know, okay, what's the solution here? Like, what can we do other than just point fingers? What can we actually do? Right? What can we do locally? I reached out to his local official, and I really wanted him to be on the podcast. I really did, because this person's very outspoken about what he believes in and everything like that. And I asked him to hop on, and he respectively said no, which again, I respect. And we're still on good terms. And I told him, don't worry about it. I understand you're in a position where you don't really want to be. He really didn't want to make this situation political. He said that, I think that the situation is very touchy, and I don't want to, make it political and oversee all the people that are grieving right now. And I was like, okay, bro, I respect it. And I also wanted to have somebody else on the podcast who was kind of in the realm of the whole conspiracy theory side, and he said no. He was afraid to hop on the podcast, and he said like no, like if this is truly what I think it is, I don't want to be involved in it. I don't want. He basically did not want the government to come from, and I was just like,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of like factors that make it look like it's from the government. Like you talked about, the police did not handle it well, right? So they went 78 minutes. They waited for the gunman for 78 minutes after he walked in, outside of the classrooms in the hallway. They waited for him for 78 minutes. Apparently, it's because they believed that he barricaded himself in a classroom, and they also believed that there was no students or anyone that in risk, right? So they decided to wait it out instead of taking action. That was their excuse. But I don't know how they would possibly know that information without actually seeing it. You know what I mean? So they believed that, but it turns out that this guy was just going ham the whole time they were waiting outside. He was shooting kids and teachers and all that shit. So it makes it look like the government kind of let it happen because all they did was wait. They just waited 78 minutes without taking action.
Here's the only problem I have with that, though. It's like those cops are part of that community. You know what I mean? So, like, for all of them to be involved in that, I don't think that's very attainable. Like, I think that one of the cops would crack, or I think one of the cops, if they even found out, they would rat them out or wouldn't go along with it.
Yeah, but all you have to do is have one person misinform the rest. Right? So just one guy go, hey, he's barricaded. There's no one that harmed. Just wait. Okay, he's my commander. He's my whatever. I believe him. That's all it takes, Guys, everyone's fine. He's in the classroom by himself. There's no one else in there. Let's just wait it out. You sure, Chief? Yeah. Let's wait. That's all it takes.
Man,
and apparently a fucking border patrol guy ended up killing him too. Not even the cops there. Yeah. So how the fuck? How does that happen?
How much you gotta pay to make? How much does the government have to pay to make the chief or the person in charge to like play along? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, dude. Like I find that very hard to believe, but again, there's like
crazier things have happened, bro. Crazier things I don't think it's that insane to believe that. Like, if this is really a political agenda, I don't think it's out of reach to say that one guy was like told to wait and hold out, That could be possible, man. I sound like a conspiracy theorist now.
Yeah, for sure. No, dude, because there is a lot of things to think about. There's a lot of shady stuff that went on with this whole thing. I know, like in the video that I showed in the beginning, the news reporter says like, yeah, there's so many people coming out now saying that they knew this and this and this, and they knew that his intentions were bad, but they're just now telling us. If they would have told us a lot earlier, we could have put an end to this. And it's just like, I don't know, dude. I feel like this guy was way too public with it for like the government not to find out. I feel like he made it too easy for them to find out that these were his intentions.
Or maybe they did find out and they helped him out.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. That's always a possibility, man. I don't know, man. Maybe I just watch too many shows, too many Netflix shows. But you and I don't really have a clue what goes on. We're spectators. For all we know, these people are in cahoots with each other.
Listen, guys, are y'all tired of being fat and unhealthy? Look, I feel you. I've struggled with weight loss for a majority of my life, but I recently lost 32 pounds. I want to tell y'all exactly how I did it. I changed my diet. I ate a little bit healthier. I know how hard that can be with so much convenient fast food restaurants, convenient grab and go foods that you can just pick up and go. But I want to show y'all a way where y'all can stay convenient and eat a bit healthier. That's why I want to tell y'all about my good friends at Primitive Eats. It's a local, homegrown, small business that is a meal prep company. And they are derived off the paleo diet. Really quickly, paleo is just a natural way of eating food. Taking out simple carbs, sticking to the earth. Okay? It is very good for you. It's very healthy for you, and you can support a local small business. It's always great. So if you're in the Los Fresnos, Brownsville, or Harlingen, San Benito area, go check them out. They have plans where you can buy for the full week. They will deliver it for you. Quick, easy, and go, and it's super delicious. They support the podcast. I support them. Go check them out. And if you don't want to get their meal plan, listen, check out their Instagram. That is Primitive Eats 90. I'm going to leave it in the description. If you're not going to follow them for the meal preps, follow them for their memes because their memes are hilarious. Also, little quick fun fact, they do raffles, which I recently won concert tickets on their page. True story. Go check them out. I support Primitive Eats. Primitive Eats supports the podcast, and we love them. Go check them out.
Yeah, and another thing I'm very curious about is that I know a lot of people are asking me, and this is probably not the direction that they expected me to go with this, but a lot of people are so upset at how people handled the situation, but there's not that many people upset with the actual shooter, which amazes me because I always say this on my podcast. I am very interested in the individual. And I think this is an individual thing. I think that this guy is responsible for, killing people. And I don't know. I understand. I understand that the situation wasn't taken care of properly. But I don't understand why this guy, this kid that did the shooting isn't getting more hatred than what the cops are getting, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you, but my whole thing is that I just want those two red flags answered. First one being where he got the money. Like there's got to be someone close to him that knows where he got this money. Maybe there's an explanation that we're missing out on, like he worked at Wendy's and saved every single check for fucking a year or 2 years, right?
Yeah.
Something, right? Someone has to know where he got his money. That's what I want to know. First off, the second thing I want to know is, yes, I know they said we waited 78 minutes because we thought everyone was safe. But I want to know why you thought everyone was safe. Mm-hmm. I want to know every little detail as to why you decided to wait that long. But you also got to remember, while they're waiting that long, they're hearing the shots go off. So how do you hear shots go off left and right for 78 minutes and assume everyone's safe?
Yeah.
What do you think he's shooting at? You think he's just shooting at the wall?
But why wait? Like, why even? I don't understand.
Exactly. I want them to go in depth and explain that, because that just makes no sense. Apparently, one of the cops there had a child that was a student there. Mm-hmm. So I want to know, you as a father, who convinced you to not take action and try and save your child?
No,
knowing your child.
Apparently, he did save his child, or like he tried, or like he got his child out or something like that, but only his. But he didn't let any other parents.
Oh my God, isn't that some bullshit, bro? Come on, dude. You can't do that. You can't play favorites.
Yeah, dude. It's crazy. I agree with you. I don't understand why they just, like, those are the people you call to face these dangers. So, like, Here's what I think when I think about that situation. It's like, why even leave it up in the air for debate if there's kids in there or not, or people endangered or not? Why? I don't even care if there's one kid in there, bro. Go in there, dude. Like, what does it matter? I don't know, dude. There's a guy armed in there in an elementary school. It doesn't make any sense why you just wouldn't bum rush and just take that guy out.
You have to find a solution quick, because you can't take risks. Because look what happens when you take risks like that. Yeah. You let that guy go off for 78 minutes shooting little kids and teachers. For 78 minutes, you heard bullet shots and assumed everyone was safe. Like, I want to know why that assumption was made, that decision. Who was the genius that was like, let's just wait for him to come out? I want to know. That's apparently something that they haven't answered. I saw one of the, I think it was like a chief or something getting interviewed, and they asked him these questions, right? And he goes, I agree with you. We shouldn't have waited, but let me talk to my colleagues and we'll answer your questions.
Pathetic, huh?
See you soon. Like, he was basically like, yeah, let me go see what they want me to say, or what we're gonna agree on telling the public, and then we'll talk about it. You know, like, that's just pathetic. Instead of just being like, ooh, he knows why. He wants to make sure his higher ups are okay with what he says.
Do you think there's a possibility that, and this is a poor possibility, I think, in my opinion, but who knows? Do you think there's a possibility they were just scared?
No, I mean, I feel like, well, yeah, obviously, right? There's some fear attached to that, right? Like, there's a guy with a gun, he could shoot you. There's always going to be that fear. But I like to believe that most police officers are police officers because they have that hero in them. You know, they have that ability to be like fight or flight. You know, that's why you're a police officer. If you don't have that in you, you shouldn't be a cop.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a cop that's like afraid of situations like that and is like, please let that never happen to me. Obviously, you don't want that to happen to you. But if that were to happen, you would hope that you signed up for that, you know, that you are going to act accordingly and do your job.
Yeah, 100%. You and I talk about that too, right? Like how we wouldn't, us personally, we wouldn't go to war, or we more than likely wouldn't join law enforcement just because we don't. It's like we don't want to go to war in a third world country for, you know, that's just not us. Like, we don't, that's not where we stand, you and I personally.
Yeah, for sure. I think you're saying we're pussies, which I agree.
I never said that, but
nah, I wouldn't say we're pussies, but I'd say that we are definitely like, why risk our lives if we don't have to?
Yeah, privileged. You know? Okay, so where I do want to take this conversation and possibly end this whole conversation with, because I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't do this, is I want to really discuss what are some things that we can do to help prevent or to help keep schools safe. And I think that we really need to think about it, even if we don't really have something formulated in our head. But again, I think I'd be a huge hypocrite if I didn't try, or if we didn't try to give some solutions. I know I gave the cop one, which I think is a good one. I think another good one would be, but here's the problem with this one, is I think maybe we should put very large, maybe like 10-foot fences with like barbed wire all around the school with a good size of perimeter. Here's the bad thing about that, though. It's like, once, let's say you up the security in a school system and a shooter's already in the school. It's like, now you're kind of like locking them in. You feel me? I know there are some people talking about maybe doing some metal detectors or like some type of scanning system. That's a lot of money. Am I saying it's we shouldn't do it? That's not what I'm saying. But do we have the money to do it, or should we delegate money to do it? Maybe. Do I think the government would do it? I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's got to be an extra filter because you can't just walk into the school anymore. Like that's how it happens. You have to add an extra filter of protection. I mean, the only thing I could think of is like forcing all adults to walk through a perimeter where, you know, in the airport where they scan your bag. Maybe one of those, right? Like all adults must place their belongings in here before walking into the school, right? And you're not allowed in unless you do that. Because, you know, if the shooter shows up and he has guns and obviously he has like a bag or something, or he's, right away, just locked down. Click the button, boom, he's locked out. But it sucks, it's going to have to, it's probably going to cost a lot of money, but you need something.
Yeah.
I think the money's worth the lives for sure.
I think so too. I think we're pouring a crap load of money to Ukraine right now. Well, you had said something a little while ago, right?
Yeah. Biden confirmed the launch of missiles, or not launch.
We gave like missiles or something like that.
Yeah, I think he like landed a few missiles to the Ukraine, which is like a very, very thin line. That's like assisting them in the war. So who knows how that's going to turn out for us, but.
Yeah, but we're also pouring a lot of money into Ukraine too, which is I think there's a lot of issues that need to be handled here in our own country before we can even think about going to Ukraine. That's just my opinion. I know people are all right now pray for Ukraine and whatnot, and my heart goes out to that situation, but I think that we have an epidemic here in our country going on, some crazy stuff going on. I think that need to be handled and taken care of before we can go and do stuff like that. But yeah.
What do you think about that that solution that had said about like this kind of thing that scans your whole body or your bags or whatever, what do you think about that?
I think that's good. I think I don't know, dude. I think on the surface level it looks doable. I think there's a lot of logistics again that go into stuff like that. You know what I mean?
There's probably a bunch of holes in that.
Right.
But I think having like a cop at every school is probably like the best answer to that. And have all these cops trained and knowing exactly what to do the second they come in contact or hear of a shooter, right?
Yes. Or even the security guards, arm the Here's the thing though too, it's like if you arm the security guards, I know personally some security guards that just, those were the kids you needed to watch out with in school. I don't know.
The security guards?
Yeah, the security guards, like back in high school, they were the shit sticks. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I had some. We used to have the security guard that was a stripper, ex-stripper.
You know what I mean? Background checks, bro. We need background checks. That's a good one.
Yeah, for sure. But I don't know about arming the security though. I think, like I wouldn't trust securities with firearms inside of a school. I think just leave it to the cops. Have one cop armed and ready to go. Bulletproof vest, everything.
So something else I want to talk about, and I just thought of it. You and I have already briefly talked about it off air, is I personally have heard a couple of people now talk about how they want to transition their kids to homeschool. And they don't want their kids in public school. I've also heard on Facebook, I saw today a bunch of people commenting saying that ever since the shooting, they stopped sending their kids to school because they were afraid. How do you think this is gonna affect the parents sending their kids back to public school? And do you think we're gonna see now more parents start to resort to homeschool? And do you think that's a good thing? Personally, I would not send personally, I would not have my child homeschooled. I would send them to public school. But I know there's a lot of people scared right now, and they want to take other routes.
Yeah, I mean, I think for sure there's going to be a rise in how many parents get their kids homeschooled, because, and that's sad that it's gone that far, right? That you feel like you have to have your kid home at all times because he could die when he goes to school. Like, that's just a thing now in the U.S. where you have to worry about that, and it's sad it's gotten to that point. But for sure, there's going to be a rise in parents doing that, you know. And for sure, there's gonna be you know, those parents that keep their kids home, you know. Like you said, personally, I wouldn't do that because I think, I don't know, maybe it's the mentality that it can never happen to me, you know. But I feel like the whole community of a school is very important for a child, and all those experiences are needed in molding a young boy or girl.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think the public school dynamic is very important in the social life of kids growing up. I think we have already seen like a bunch of socially awkward kids that have been hoarded by their parents, like, and that essentially creates weirdos or people that don't know how to socialize. There's a quote that I love that says it takes a village to formulate an idea, and that's basically people communicating together to figure out what's right or wrong. And I feel like when you isolate your child from society, I feel like what you do is that you kind of disconnect them from reality. And so that's why, you know, they come out to being antisocial and these little weirdos that tend to be neglected from the rest of the crowds and whatnot. And then that's how you get, you know, people like this, man. I don't want to say it, but that's how you get these school shooters, man. That's how you get these crazy people, is because, well, they're bullied. Why are they bullied? Because they're socially awkward. Why are they socially awkward? Because they were hoarded when they were kids, and their parents didn't want them being bullied, or their parents didn't want them to go through certain trials and tribulations in public schools. And that's just my theory, but I think that's a strong theory. I think that our generation has bubbled up our children too much.
Yeah, maybe a better one way to attack this issue is through bullying, right? Focus on bullying, because what's to say if that kid was never bullied, he would have never done that, you know? If he didn't feel like he hated the world, why does he hate the world? Because the world picked on him. Right?
Yeah, well, there's a common denominator in these mass shooters and school shooters, and they believe that they are doing a good service to the people that they are killing because they think that the world is this malevolent place of suffering, and by taking people out of the world, they're doing them a favor because they're much better off dead than they are alive. That is like a common denominator of these killers, is they're going to end their suffering in a sense. That's what the Columbine kids, that's what they said. You know, in history, that's what we've seen. And yeah, it's just out there, bro.
Tell them to speak for themselves, huh?
Right? No, that's what I'm saying, dude. It's like, if you're gonna out somebody, like, out yourself. What does 19 kids have to do with your troubles? You getting bullied? Like, get out of here with all that, dude. Like, that's sick, man.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, fuck. I don't know if there's ever gonna be a solution to this, especially in the U.S. where everyone's allowed to have a gun. So
It sounds like you're anti-gun.
No, I think you should be able to have a gun if you want. I think it should. I think you should be able to have a gun if you want, but I also think it should be harder to get a gun, right? Like you shouldn't just go and buy one like a fucking bar of chocolate. I think there should be a background check on everyone that buys a gun. I don't think there's currently any background checks on people that buy guns. I think you just fucking purchase it and that's it.
Yeah, I think there's like a brief one, but like I think it's like criminal records. Like if you have a felony, you can't buy a firearm. That's what it is. And
that's pretty much it, right?
that's pretty much it. And I agree with that 100%. What I truly believe is that people that want weapons should go to like some type of self-defense class where they learn about weapons and they learn about gun safety and stuff like that. That's what I truly believe. And they should also get a very deep background check.
Yeah, so for instance, this weird ass kid, right? You could tell he's a weirdo, right?
Yeah.
You look at him, you could tell he's a weird kid. If there was a background check of like some type of maybe even a mental, maybe it's not a background check, maybe it's a mental test, right? That you have to do. Like you answer these questions and then kind of like, so what they call psychiatrists?
Yeah.
What they do with clients, right? They would have you take a test. And then based on your answers and all that stuff, they would decide whether you have, issues mentally, right? So maybe you give everyone that wants to buy a gun this form, they fill it out, and based on what they score, if they're mentally stable to have a gun or not, maybe that's the way to go.
Yeah. Maybe. I know there's like a lot of people that are very uninformed with guns. Like I know there's a lot of people that are for guns, but they've never owned a gun or they've never even used a gun, which is like
I shot a gun once, but
like you wouldn't know how to load it, unload it, clean it, and stuff like that. I grew up around guns and I know how to handle it. And even to this day, like I am extremely careful with weapons because whenever I have a weapon in my hand, I never trust it ever. I have the fear, and I think everybody should have the fear of like this gun, even though it's on safety, even though there's a bullet's not in the chamber, don't point the barrel to anybody. Obviously that's not a target if you're self-defense, whatever. But yeah, I'm very careful with weapons because weapons need to be respected for obvious reasons, and I feel like people don't truly know the maybe they're desensitized to the power that weapons hold. That's just my thought on it.
Or maybe what you got to do is you know how cops and the cat they pepper spray you just so you know how it feels. Maybe you got to get shot.
Maybe on the butt cheek.
You shoot you one time just so you know how it feels. So you be careful with that shit.
You sound like a narcissist right now.
A little bit.
No, but I'm very curious for the people that are listening right now. What are your thoughts on the whole situations? More so the solutions.
I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that have like, oh, you should do this, you should do that, but they just don't talk about it. Maybe they're scared to get criticized, but if there's a place to do it, it's here in the comments.
100%. Yeah. And speak out about it too. It's like I'm sick and tired of people crying and moaning about situations but not providing solutions and then not being vocal about it. Not putting the action behind it, right? And I keep saying it. I keep saying it in my small group. Act locally, think globally, right? You see a global problem going on. Like right now we have this mass shootings. Okay, we're having these mass shootings. Sure, maybe it's not in your city, but it could be your city next. And why would you wait for that to happen? Look at a situation and say, okay, how can we prevent this happening here locally? And then discuss it. Like your local officials are there for you. They serve you. And you essentially control what happens in your city or in your town or whatever you call where you're from. And I just find it very hypocritical and very frustrating when people love to speak on social media but do not do anything. Stop doing that. Stop doing that. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Again, that's the first thing that I did. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect when it comes to situations like this. But when I don't know something, I'm going to go to someone who actually knows what they're talking about. And I think people should do more of that. I'm sick and tired of people not doing that. What do you think?
Same.
It's frustrating, dude. Like, come on. Like, there's only so much that whining can do. It's like, quit the whining, dude. But yeah, I think we're gonna go ahead and end it off there. Do you have anything else to say?
No, other than make sure you comment and let us know what you believe is a solution or a potential step in the right direction. And also let us know if you think homeschooling your kids is the right move or not.
Yeah.
I'm interested to know what people think about that.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to conclude today's conversation, today's podcast. I know this conversation might frustrate and piss some people off just because it's probably not the direction that they expected me to. I'm pretty sure people expected me to hop on this podcast and just bash the cops and bash the people that handled the situation wrong. But I have a tendency of looking at things way deeper. And I really want to dissect and pull the onion back and see what's truly going on. So I'm sorry if it wasn't what you thought it was going to be, but this is what I truly think. And yeah, I mean, that's all I can speak on is what I think. Before we go, though, so where do you want them to find you?
You guys can find me on YouTube at The Outlier Podcast. It should be the first option that pops up.
Yeah. So
we're obviously, if you don't know, that's where Roger and myself have our weekly podcast. Goes live every Saturday. So if you're interested in that, make sure you check that out.
So make sure you go check out his podcast. He also has an Instagram called The Outlier Podcast. Go follow him. And again, weekly, every Saturday, I think at 1 p.m. Central Time, there's a podcast on there. So if you enjoy what we just talked about here, you'll see a lot more of that over there. Thank you guys for listening. As you all know, you can find the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, or anywhere else that you can get podcasts. Make sure you go follow the Instagram, which is The Real Common Podcast. That's the best place to get in contact with me. If you have any topics or ideas, I'm constantly getting topics, which I enjoy. But just understand that some of them are difficult to attack just because I don't like to talk about something that I don't have a solution to. So that's why I try to get guests on that have them. If I don't, I'll do my best. But anyways, guys, thank you all for watching / listening, and we'll catch y'all next time. Peace.
On the track.